Hey, it's me, your restless mind. I know that late at night when you're trying to fall asleep, you've got a bunch of thoughts whirling around your brain at 100 miles an hour. You know what could slow those down a little bit? Turning on an episode of this podcast. Before we continue my first ever journey through the Harry Potter series, just a few quick announcements. First, just a reminder that there is a cornucopia of goodness available to you at potterlesspodcast.com. From episode transcripts to information about the charities we donate to links to the merch store and the Patreon, to more information about the show, to every single episode of the podcast. It all lives over at potterlesspodcast.com, and a huge shout out to my wife Kelly Schubert for maintaining that website each and every week. Also, an update for non-American patrons or people considering pledging to the Patreon. Patreon has now allowed patrons to pay in euros and pounds as well. So if that was a barrier to entry to you, or if that makes your financial situation easier if you're already a patron, I'm not really sure how international currencies and all of that works. So if that helps you, you can now pay in pounds and euros. And I think you just got to go to settings, or if you start a new pledge at patreon.com/potterless, you can do that. So that's available to you if you want it. And speaking of the Patreon, we have new patrons to welcome to the team. So shout out to Selena Lamoon, Lucille Guimonet, Lena Matilla, Your Boy, Melissa Pacone, Floor, Teresa Holnack, Lucia Espinoza, Connor McCowan, Tabsel Tabs, and Nikki Rianne. And a huge shout out to producer level patron Liz Hartley. They joined the ranks of Vicky, Christine, Aaron, Clown, Marchismo, Samantha, Juan, Rosemary, Marie, Lisa, Romina, Audra, Eleanor, Nikita, Ali, Sarah, Rachel, Zachary, Orchid, Vivian the Owl, Moster, Alex, John, Noel, Brandon, Claire, Rory, Veronica, Lotta, Noah, Tracy, Colleen, Jennifer, Justin, Jacob, Maya, Mark, Polly, Zena, Harlan, Noelia, Nikki, Kine, Amanda, Kafir, Sarah, Marta, Maya, Floor, Siri, Georgia, Skyla, Edel, Professor Threat, Ellie, Michael, Kelly, Carrie, Connie, Jen, Nedry, Will, Samantha, Aurora, Marcos, Marique, Ashton, Brittany, Phelan, the Meadows family, Ginny, Heather, Brianna, Kevin, Lori, Chrissy, Jarl, Peta, Sophie, Jen, and Callahan, Leah, Melissa, Bella, Melanie, Becca, Rees, Adam, Joseph, Lily's mom, T-Run, Madison, Tonk, Sabrina, Sophia, Farzan, Melanie, Matt, Okamahime, Boney Pony, Kelsey, Rike, Taylor, Rochelle, Megan, Alicia, Riley, Laurel, Rossanne, Erica, Miranda, Landon, Kendra, Callista, Kendra, Natanya, Yogan, Darcy, Sandra, Craig, Andren, Steve, Leor, Julia, Demi, Michelle, Callista, Lovekesh, Jennifer, Crystal, Henrique, Jeremy, Delkis, Katrina, Jerica, Casey, Megan, Zat, Jack, Sophia, Dan, Rochelle, Kirsty, Robin, Chick, Mermaid, Daddykins, Aaron, Not My Daughter, Upiacha, Laria, Lori, Gregory, Krista, Kawkaw, Nina, Ribbon, Brittany, it's definitely Ludo Bagman, Ravenclaw, Gavin, Ashley, Grant, Aaliyah, Jack, Steamed Nuggets, and Carrot Harry Potter, who never buy a 4-pack of a new flavor of yogurt thinking, I'll like this flavor, and then they realize they don't, and then they're stuck with 4 yogurts that are disgusting. If you want to be like one of these amazing patrons and get access to bonus content like director's commentary, or bonus episodes, or exclusive merchandise, or exclusive live streams, you can head on over to patreon.com/Potterless. But without further ado, let's get into episode 138 of Potterless, the final episode about the first act of A Harry Potter Senior Year, guest starring Multitude's own Eric Silver. Hello, Internet, and welcome back to another episode of Potterless, the tale of a 20-year-old man who never read the Harry Potter series as a kid. He read them as an adult, and now he's doing Harry Potter extracurricular activities. My name is Mike Schubert, and I am that grown man, and I'm here joined again by goofball, Multitude's own Eric Silver. Eric, how's it going?
I'm a snake. Ooh, Mike, I'm a snake.
Gosh, the snake humor is so good.
They really lead on it really well. That was something that I wanted to say in the last episode, but like the parcel tongue stuff is really funny in this. All of the animals in this are extremely good.
It's very, very, very funny. I love it a whole lot. So we have the rest of A Harry Potter Senior Year Act 1 to discuss. We discussed so much of it last time, and we definitely didn't get on a huge tangent about a Instagram photographer turned selfie maker, I think. I am so confused by people that are full-time Instagrammers. As someone that's done 2 career paid influencer posts, I can't understand people doing it all of the time. It seems like the worst.
Just like, wouldn't you run out of people thinking that it was okay? That's always the thing that flummoxes me. Is like, wouldn't then people know that all you do is post ads and then they won't want to follow you anymore?
I guess the thing is, I guess some people follow those people knowing it and they're okay with it. And I guess like they like some of the brands they shout out. I don't know. The one time we did the one for Potterless, the one that you helped me out with for Potbellies, I agonized over it for so long because I didn't want people to think I was a sellout. I remember making multiple polls. I made one on Instagram and Twitter, like, hey, if I made an ad, but it was really funny and on brand, would you be okay with it? And thankfully, most people said yes. My favorite was the people on Instagram who accidentally voted no and then sent me messages like, oh, I'm so sorry. I hit no by accident.
Yeah, I think if you put as much effort into the ads as you do your other things, I think it's fine because then it just becomes more content. This isn't something and I'm really focusing so hard to find silver linings in the world right now. But supporting artists and thinking that it's okay for artists to be paid and be paid for work, even if it's like a company or a brand supporting that artist when they're giving you other stuff for free, that is a thing that I think like the world has kind of coalesced around. And also like shout out to everybody who's been supporting all of the multitude shows on Patreon. Like we've seen a massive surge in all of our Patreons and on the multi-crew.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like people know that artists need to be supported, and I think that is something like art is just as good as any other type of occupation. I really appreciate all of the stuff that's been happening there. I know that this was one thing for you to do an ad for a sandwich company, but the fact that people went out of their way to say, no, this is okay, and tell you, I'm sorry I voted this way. I appreciate the listeners and knowing that we can keep doing what we're doing. It's pretty nice.
I think what I learned from it was that people aren't necessarily upset about you doing an ad. It's the way in which you did it. And the only reason I did it was first, I thought it being sponsored by a sandwich company was fucking hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
And they were doing a Harry Potter promotion, which like genuinely had a very good deal. Like you got a percentage off and you got either a free cookie or a free milkshake, which I don't know that anyone in the history of the universe has ever been like, oh man, a free milkshake. Oh, I hate this so much.
Fuck you, Mike Schubert. I didn't want that delicious frozen pastry treat. Fuck you.
But then I put a lot into the actual photo itself. Like it was me and you doing a duel in front of the multitude logo. The lighting was super cool. I photoshopped in stuff. And the whole campaign that they were doing involved you texting a number and then it had puns in every single response back to you in the text message thing. So I felt very okay with it. But I think that's part of the process. That's why for all of the people that sponsor our podcasts, we make sure that they are on brand. And we have turned down many brands that don't make any sense.
Yeah.
We have turned down weird iPhone games that are basically scams to get children into gambling. And we've turned down weird vape companies and weird insurance companies and weird cell phone companies. Like we reject a lot of sponsors that don't make sense because it would feel super gross to be, hawking some product that is bad.
Yes. Luckily, we have the ability to say yes or no. Just the amount of it's nice. It's the amount of freedom. And it's not only like ones that aren't on brand. It's ones that are just like a lit predatory. So I think of that iPhone game.
Actively bad.
Yeah.
Oh no, I've definitely done ads that aren't on brand. But if you're going to give me money to promote your thing that plugs into a Wi-Fi router and then can be used to make sure your children don't go on weird websites and stuff, which you don't need a separate thing for, I'm going to take your money and do an ad on my show. But it's not something actively terrible like that iPhone app that was definitely gambling for children.
Yeah, and like predatory college loans and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the point is, to underscore it, is like the fact that we have Patreons and we have direct support, we don't have to just run any ad so that we can do this. And at the same time, now we're going to spend an entire hour talking about a few parts of the third Harry Potter musical. It all just kind of shakes out, and I'm just really appreciative now that we're thinking about it.
So let's talk about that part of that third musical. When we last left, Harry had made an absolute mess of the Death Day party, and everyone was very upset with him. So everyone starts to storm off because Harry ruined the party. But Ron asks Harry if he's okay, and he gives a very angry, serious "don't touch me," which made me sit back in my chair a little bit. It was so anger-filled. But then Hermione comes in, and Ron is, of course, scared because she's going to find out that he cheated on her by receiving a kiss on the cheek. And Harry is mad at her because he had to do his own potions homework, but he said, well, you didn't do it, so it never got done, which is just like classic book Harry, jerk Harry, etc. And while he is ranting and raging and being so angry, Hermione says to him, which isn't necessarily a comedic line, but the audience absolutely loved it, is she goes, this is just how you were in fifth year playing to, PTSD, angsty Harry in the beginning of book 5. And the audience just absolutely went nuts for this line, which I think is great. I love that some of the lines that they wrote into this and didn't deliver as like this is the part where you laugh. I appreciate the audience loving some of those lines that aren't just like very much written in a way where it's like, this is the part where you laugh now.
It is weird that in the script they didn't say, wow, you're being so moody, like in the worst book of the series.
Hot takes.
I gotta put some spice in, Mike.
You think book 5 is worse than book 2?
Yes, I do. I think that 1 through 3 is very much like a straight up YA novel series, and there are some foibles. Like I was reading it when I was 12 and 13, so it's like, oh yeah, I mean, whatever. At least Chamber of Secrets has like a very straightforward plot, which was really fun, and like uncovering the mystery and the basilisk and all that stuff. I think 5 is so boring. After 4, where J.K. Rowling had a bunch of fun making up a sport and coming up with a tournament, and everyone knows from watching anime that the tournament series is always the best series, she's like, oh shit, I need to put in a bunch of exposition. God damn it. And then she jammed all the exposition into book 5.
Yeah, I think book 5 is probably the most boring of them, but the ending of it is just so good that I kind of forgive all of the other bad, drawn-out natures of it. Those last 5 chapters are just so solid and so strong.
I guess I can't help a book that I need to spend like 2 weeks when I'm 15 reading. And then I'm like, oh yeah, it was pretty shitty. But then the last 5 chapters really saved it. That wasn't like the critical lens I was looking at it. It's just like, it's still the most boring. I can't deal with it.
It was my least fun reading experience. It's one of those like, when you think about actively reading it, it wasn't my favorite, but when you look back at just like the story, I think it's good. And that's what most people said when I was voicing my frustrations with book 5 to people, is like, after you finish it, you kind of appreciate everything that happened. But if I was gonna just pick up one book to read again, I do think that 5 might be my least likely to pick up because it is so long, but I would be very okay with just reading the ending of 5 again because I think it's very good. But yeah, it's a big undertaking where a good chunk of it just didn't need to be there.
Yes, 100%. I would reread Goblet of Fire in a second. It's like one sports book that I could read, you know?
So Harry then starts to hear the basilisk, and the basilisk is back with its amazing parcel tongue where it says, I'm a snake, I'm huge, I'm a ton bigger than you'd expect. You could make a ton of shoes or like 2 really big purses out of me.
So good.
It's absolutely fantastic. I really love it. I don't know who does the snake voice, but gosh, what a wonderful performance. Mm-hmm. And then Harry finally responds to hearing the snake, and then the snake continues and goes on, oh shit, I think that kid hears me. I gotta go back to the Chamber of Secrets. And then Harry says, let's go to the Chamber of Secrets. So him and the squad all head to the chamber, and they see a petrified, nearly headless Nick. And they also see Ginny, who is very confused. She's clearly just woken up from being possessed. Harry asks her what happened, what's going on, and she just keeps stammering, which makes Harry very upset. And he goes, why don't you go snog Dean or something? And she goes, fine, maybe I will. And then just runs off stage.
Classic Ginny.
It wasn't until this line that I remembered that her and Dean were a thing. Like, I had just totally forgotten that one of the major plot points is that she dates Dean for a little bit, and it makes Harry and Ron both upset for different reasons. But I didn't even draw the connection earlier when she is going on a date joint with Dean and Seamus. Like, oh, right, Ginny does date Dean at some point in the series.
Right. This Ginny has to be inspired from movie Ginny, right? Who just like can't do anything, has no sort of agency, only loves Harry Potter, is a reflection of all of their siblings. I forget, this actress is also incredible. Like, the entire character was really good, and I'm glad that they did this. They made this into really like a Ginny production because the character and everything that she was doing was great.
Yes, I hope that is what the intention of it was, to poke fun at the movie adaptation being subpar. And I hope that it's not them just writing it saying like, yes, girl character, she must be stupid.
Oh no, I thought Ginny was particularly stupid, especially when she couldn't pronounce Marvolo
and it's very
pronounced Riddle incorrectly. I'm just like, oh no, Ginny is the one who's very dumb.
Yeah, I would hope that it is more of a play on them just completely botching Ginny in the movie adaptation.
Yeah.
So then they get into the actual Chamber of Secrets. Harry says that they should look for clues, tells Hermione to do so, and then asks Ron if he's found any clues. And Ron goes, no, just an endless parade of spiders, which of course was the clue in book 2. And Harry pauses for a bit, like he's about to make some big revelation, but then he just says, "Good riddance. I hate spiders."
I'm so glad that the spiders are gone.
So he eventually decides that he wants to talk to the spiders to figure out where they're going. And he says that he wishes he could talk to them instead of his, quote, worthless ability to talk to snakes that he never uses. And I think this is such a great joke because since their timeline is so discombobulated, the fact that he is in his 7th year and has never used Parseltongue, because Harry does that in book 1 unintentionally, and then it becomes more of a thing in book 2, is just, I think it's great for Star Kid to be able to laugh at themselves a bit and be like, yes, we've never had Harry use his Parseltongue ability, even though that comes up multiple times throughout the series.
Yeah, it is. And this is also partially what I said in the last episode, why I think Gilderoy is setting him up to be discredited, and then he'll take all of his stories and turn it into a YA series, because he then uses it for the thing that is actually used in the books, which is inferring that Harry is the
the heir of Slytherin.
Exactly. Which is something that I always thought was really funny, because I'm like, there's literally a hat that yells at you if you aren't set into the proper schoolhouse. Why would this person in Gryffindor be the heir to Salazar Slytherin? It doesn't make any sense.
You would also think that there are enough old people at Hogwarts to know that he is not his bloodline. Maybe heir doesn't necessarily have to be someone related to Slytherin. I'm not well versed in lordship. I haven't seen Game of Thrones, and I assume that's what that's all about. So I don't know who the rightful heir to the throne that's in the game. Like, I don't know all that shenanigans.
The throne that's in the game. No, I thought it was like a destiny thing, though. It was like, oh, it is your destiny to be in Slytherin and do all the Slytherin things and be in the racist house. It's like, no, we already have the destiny, which is a big hat, yells at you and tells you what your destiny is, tells you your personality. We have this personality test that yells at you and is a hat. So why are you trying to put like a destiny on top of a destiny?
The fact that they don't have a mid-year second sorting is so strange to me, because the person that I was at age 10 is so much different than the person that I've become. I guess it's not exactly the equivalent, but it would be similar to if you showed up to college your freshman year, like first day, and they go, okay, this is your major and you can't change. You have to do this. Like, it's so strange that at 10 years old, they're like, yes, this is who you are as a person. You've had enough life experiences.
That's true.
Like, I feel like there should be a second sorting after 4th year or something, like a halfway checkpoint, you know?
Yeah, in case you go from brave to nerdy or sleepy to racist, you really need to make sure you're resorted.
I like Hufflepuff being Sleepy House.
Hashtag Sleepy House, man.
So they end up following the spiders into the Forbidden Forest. Of course, Ron is terrified about this. And Harry, once they get to where the spiders are going, he says he can feel that the monster is here. He thinks that they're in the right place. And he's very excited because he says, quote, usually it takes me all year to solve a mystery, but not this year. I'm on fire. The boy who's on fire. That's what they'll call me, which is a great Hunger Games reference.
I also thought that this was interesting because this sets up something later when Gilderoy says Harry was looking for a mystery, but he created one himself. And I was like, oh shit, that's really good. I actually thought the like convoluted plot of this musical ties in to the ridiculousness of A Chamber of Secrets, and I thought that was really smart.
Yeah, it's very smart writing. So then Aragog enters.
Yes! This actor is fucking awesome! I love him!
I don't know. He wasn't anything else in the play so far, I don't think. And I don't know that he's been in the first
He was,
two.
I thought he was Barney Crouch. He was Barney Crouch.
No, that's a different guy.
Oh, really? I thought it was the same guy because they both did really good accents.
The guy who comes in as Tom Riddle Sr. is Barty Crouch.
Oh, I thought they were all the same. I couldn't tell because he was wearing a spider costume.
Yeah, so he's wearing this very interesting spider costume, which has all of these extended prosthetic arms, if you will. I don't know if this was a costume choice or just what they had to work with, but he's clearly wearing like Vans or Converse low tops. And it's just, they stick out so clearly because the rest of his costume is so ridiculous.
I must have missed it when he kept trying to tell me to get in his mouth.
Ah, yes, of course. A bit distracting. Yeah, you don't want to necessarily look at the feet when the song that he ends up launching into is called Get In My Mouth. So yeah, he launches into song, and I didn't know that this one was Get In My Mouth. Melissa, in one of the earlier episodes, she mentioned that there was a song called Get In My Mouth, and I was like, oh, geez. But I didn't put it together. So at first, when he starts singing, it's got a very sultry vibe to it, almost like an Arctic Monkeys kind of vibe, where the person singing it is like actively trying to fuck you the whole song.
Yeah. Well, the accent he's using is Sean Connery.
Yes.
So the fact that it's 007 trying to tell you to get in my mouth, I 100% thought that. Yeah.
I got that. Yeah. I guess for me, I saw Arctic Monkeys live, and the guy definitely was just trying to make everyone want to sleep with him while he sang the whole time.
Yeah.
Like, I've never seen someone be such a unapologetic bad boy. Like, he had a comb in his back pocket that he like actively combed his slicked over hair multiple times. And like, look, the dude's super attractive and I get it, but it was also like, what are you doing? We're at a music festival in Houston.
If you want to go that a step further, someone who actually actively wants every single person in the area to fuck them, you got to see the Killers live. Brandon Flowers wants all men and all women to be fucking him at the same time and doesn't need a comb or anything. His charisma score is so high.
Now, is he actively seeking that out, or is it like Brendan Urie where he just commands so much stage presence that you just decide that you want to?
Oh, see, that's a very good parallel. I would say it's hornier than Brandon Urie.
Got it.
Like, Brandon Urie does it passively, but I think Brandon Flowers is actively trying to get everyone to fuck him.
Yeah, I saw Panic at the Disco live at the Barclays Center. I saw them because I got free tickets, and I liked Panic at the Disco enough, but I wasn't like well versed in their full discography. Yeah, I wasn't fully versed in all of that, but I was like, I think Brendan Urie's cool. I've seen him sing the DuckTales theme song and stuff. But he opened by getting on stage with, they catapulted him out of the stage, like out of the floor.
That's dope.
Launched him up into the air. And then when he landed, fireworks went off and the song began and like the beat dropped, and he was wearing a gold blazer and black leather pants, and he was dancing very well and singing very well, and like went into this falsetto that I didn't think a voice could go into. And 4 minutes in, I was like, yes, I am in love with Brandon Urie, and I always have been.
If I remember correctly, didn't we have something to do the next day? Like, didn't you fly out immediately the next day after that concert?
Yes, I did. I think we went to a podcast something.
It was one of the podcast conventions, but you had to fly, and you went a day later so you could go to this free concert of someone of a band you didn't really like, but you really wanted to go to the free concert, and then you flew out that night, and we're all just like, Mike, what are you doing? And you're like, I got free tickets.
That was the second time I did it. They were both for podcast things. I think one was for the Florida one, Podcast Movement, and then the other one I think was for Listen Up. But the other one was, there was an Anderson .Paak concert and he was playing MSG, and I booked my flights so that I could see Anderson .Paak because I really like Anderson .Paak and I wanted to see him live.
Just if you want to know what it's like working with Mike, it's hearing that Mike went to a concert and is taking the red eye when everyone else doesn't.
Look, I'm really good at sleeping on planes. It's my superpower. If I was an X-Man, I would be sleep on planes boy. So it's really just, I schedule my flights in ways where the precedent is doing cool stuff, and then I'll be okay because I'll just fall asleep on the plane anyway. So it's not a big deal if I'm taking a weird, midnight flight, 6 a.m. flight, 3 a.m. flight. I got to maximize the fun that I'm having.
Mike, you have sleeping in weird places privilege, and I think you really just need to check that.
I'm sorry. I'll be sure to support a not great at sleeping quickly charity to make up for my transgressions here.
Thank you.
Of coming from a place of being able to fall asleep pretty quickly and soundly.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
So he starts to sing this sultry song, and then eventually you get to the chorus, which is Get In My Mouth, which, yes, very different. But it's very funny, and the background dancers, who are his children spiders, I assume, they're very funny in that they first look like your classic Motown backup dancer, but then they start moving his extra arms around while they dance, and that was good. Fantastic.
Yes. Yeah.
So then after the song concludes, he tells the squad that he's going to eat them, and there's nothing that they can do about it because they don't have one friend left in the world. And then someone from off stage screams, "They still got one friend left, you bastard!" And it's Hagrid. And I'm glad that Hagrid finally has a depiction in this trilogy, because It seemed like a big oversight to not have Hagrid in. I also love that they never address Hagrid not being in any of the other ones. It's just like, yes, Hagrid, who we've always loved.
Who everybody has always loved. The immediate thing that I wrote down was this Hagrid is infinitely better than the Harry Potter play.
Oh, then Cursed Child. Yeah.
Even with his weird beard and his shorts, I'm like, oh, this Hagrid is more believable than the weird Cursed Child Hagrid you forced upon me.
I like that they turned him into unhinged pirate Hagrid. He just talks like Blackbeard, and I guess it looks like it too with the beard situation. It's the same guy who played Lupin in the sequel, and he was so funny. His rendition of Lupin was kind of just turning it up to 11 and then also changing it to someone that isn't actually the character. So I like that Hagrid is this same sort of level of absurdity that was brought to the table via Lupin in the sequel.
They actually had more to work with here. I think that actually Lupin and Hagrid are very similar. It's like, wow, these people are really sad when you think about it for more than 5 seconds. Like Hagrid is just a half giant who doesn't know any of his giant siblings, and everyone thinks he's weird, and he has to deal with the most dangerous things on campus. And like, that's sad. Isn't that sad, guys, when you think about it?
Yeah, definitely. And they definitely play up on that part of Hagrid's character in this rendition of it. Just him talking about, like, he gives Harry the worst advice ever about not changing and how he never left the school and he technically never graduated and all of that. And it does go from, oh, haha, Hagrid is silly to, oh God, now I'm thinking about it and this is sad.
Hagrid has always been really sad. He wasn't a teacher for such a long time. He was just like a custodian. He was just a guy who hung out with dragons. Like, that is sad, just in general. And then the kids leave him. They always just leave, and they never care what Hagrid thinks. He's just the funny person who hangs out with dangerous monsters.
It is strange that Hagrid never really got some sort of cool arc afterwards. He just kind of does the giant thing, and then he comes back, and then he helps in the battle and stuff, but it's not necessarily satisfying. And it's also very sad that Harry didn't name his kid after either Hagrid or Lupin or both, but he went with Dumbledore, who's someone that basically raised Harry for slaughter, and Snape, someone who was dog shit to Harry, but I guess it's okay because he had a crush on his mom.
Yes, exactly.
Super strange 1-2 punch there.
This also ties kind of into like the inherent classism in the United Kingdom and also a lot of the stuff that we see in Harry Potter, because like Hagrid's just like the help and he's like Scottish or whatever the fuck. You know, everyone who speaks in a Cockney accent or speaks in a different accent like isn't as good as the other people. So it's like, he's just the half giant. Don't worry about that. He lives in the outhouse in like he's the groundskeeper.
Yeah, I don't know if this was an intentional critique on either the UK or Wizards or whatever being classist, or if this is just J.K. Rowling being classist and that the Wizards are very classist and they're like, oh, this person's different, so we think less of them. It sucks now to look back at all of these things that we thought were her making these great stances, and now we know that she is not great. So now you have to think like, was this a commentary or is this just her being shitty and we all gave her too much credit?
I think this is like the groundskeeper job, because Hogwarts in so many ways is just a British prep school. Is like there would be a groundskeeper whose job is to like do gardening stuff and all of that. And since when we know Hagrid immediately, he speaks it like it's written that we're supposed to sound it out like it's Scottish or whatever the fuck it is. So like I think that's just like, oh, it's a magical groundskeeper. He also takes care of the monsters, obviously. So like I just think it's the truth. Like that person is real. Is a real job at a prep school.
Yeah. 1 second, very suburban problem. There is a bird in the tree outside the window that won't shut the fuck up. So I'm about to yell at a bird. Be right back. You shut the fuck up, bird!
Tell the bird you're a snake.
It flew away.
Did you tell it you were a snake?
No, I just said shut the fuck up, bird.
Oh, no, I heard it. Everyone definitely extremely heard it.
Cool.
I hope you keep it. It was very funny.
Yeah, it's funny enough where I'm probably going to keep that one. Something that you mentioned that just screamed 2012 is the plaid shorts that he's wearing, Hagrid, are just
so funny.
Whether it was intentional or if it was just what the actor happened to be wearing, it was the most 2012 clothing item possible.
I forgave that actor because that wig and that beard seemed so heavy. So it's like he needs to vent it out on his bottom half of his body.
Gosh, I remember I had a wide array of plaid shorts.
Oh, 100%.
A wide array. And I shudder to think of how many and how cool I thought they were. I mean, they're not the worst, but it's like, it was like the next step up. I went through all the bad short phases of like, I had cargo shorts and I thought that was cool in middle school. And then I had plaid shorts and I thought that was cool in high school. And then I had shorts that I had to make sure touched my knee because, oh God, what if I showed my thighs shorts? And now I'm just like, how short can I wear shorts without it looking like I'm wearing a bathing suit and / or underwear? I've really come around.
I'm waiting for you to start dressing like Will Smith in some episodes of Fresh Prince where he has the crop top and the short shorts.
Dude, I saw a photo on Twitter where someone said, like, can we bring back this look? And it was just a bunch of pictures of people from the 90s wearing crop tops. And I was like,
You can. Like, you can just do it.
I mean, I could, yeah. Especially now that it's quarantine and like, I don't have to impress anybody and I can just wear whatever I want. Like maybe, I don't know. Like I've always been mad that there's no like dude version of yoga pants, you know, like something where I can just like be lazy and throw it on and show off my butt. Like I've always struggled with the fact that that doesn't exist.
Yeah, I was going to say basketball shorts and then you put throw on, show off my butt at the end. And I wasn't ready for that.
The thing is like there needs, man, dicks just ruin everything, don't they? Because that's why it's not there. Like if I'm wearing just like compression tights, like you're gonna see the junk, and that's just like that's not good for anybody, man.
No, nobody wants that.
No one wants that.
No one wants that.
No one.
That's why we need to wear baggy plaid shorts to cover the whole zone. Just make sure all of it's covered.
Ugh. Gosh, plaid shorts, what a time. Plaid shorts, what a time indeed. Hey everyone, it's me, Editing Mike. How's it going? Now, I can't think of a better place to take a bit of a break so we can truly process what the plaid shorts era meant to all of our lives. And while we're taking a break, why don't we step into this room? Oh, what's this? It's Wingardium Leviosa! Today's episode of Potterless is brought to you by Function of Beauty. Now, I'm not even going to do a cute little joking intro thing here. I'm just going to get right to it because Function of Beauty sent me shampoo, conditioner, body wash, and body lotion. And let me tell you, this stuff is no joke, and I'm not the only one who loves it. My mom is obsessed with it. She ordered some using the Potterless promo code literally today, and Kelly is also obsessed with it as well. What is Function of Beauty, you ask? It is hair care that is formulated specifically for you. No matter your hair type or how you like to style it, they create shampoo, conditioner, and treatments to fit your unique needs. They are so unique that they have over 54 trillion possible ingredient combinations to make sure that your formula is unique as you. And you know, some people think that you're 1 in a million. I think that you're 1 in 54 trillion. The process is very simple and honestly very fun. First, you take a quick but thorough quiz to tell them a little bit about your hair. Then Function of Beauty's team determines the right blend of ingredients and they bottle your custom formula made to order. Then they deliver your personalized formula directly to your door in a cute customized bottle with the name. You get to pick out a name. So I named mine Shamshoob. Barbara, she named hers Bar Beauty. There's all sorts of fun things you can do, and then it shows up right on the bottle. It's so cute. You can pick the fragrance of your products. You can choose how strong you want that fragrance to be. You can even choose the color. There are so many options. Plus, all of their formulas are vegan and cruelty-free, and they never use sulfate, parabens, or any other harmful ingredients. I don't know what sulfates and parabens do to my hair, but they do sound very bad, and I'm glad that they are not in Function of Beauty products. And Function of Beauty is not just the first ever custom hair care brand. It's also the internet's top-rated customized hair care brand with over 40,000 real 5-star reviews and counting. If you want to hear one of those and counting, let me just turn the mic over real quick to my wife, Kelly, who enjoyed her experience with Function of Beauty. Take it away, Kelly.
I like Function of Beauty because usually my hair gets really tangly, and then combing it when I get out of the shower, it rips out a bunch of my hair. But when I used Function of Beauty, I didn't pull out any hair when I was combing it after the shower. It untangled everything and it didn't feel like there was a lot of residue left over. Usually, if I get a conditioner that untangles my hair, it also weighs it down and feels really heavy, or it doesn't untangle my hair. With Function of Beauty, my hair was really untangled from it.
Thanks, Kelly. So what are you waiting for? Go to functionofbeauty.com/Potterless to take your 4-part hair profile quiz and save 20% on your first order. Again, that is functionofbeauty.com/Potterless. You'll get 20% off and they'll know that you came from me, which is always super fun. So go to functionofbeauty.com/Potterless, save 20%, get awesome shampoo, conditioner, body wash, body lotion, all of the above, so you can smell and look and feel great and be Kelly and Shoobs approved today. Today's episode of Potterless is also brought to you by BetterHelp. Let's say hypothetically that you are are Tom Riddle Jr. and you just met your family and it really didn't go well. You want to talk to someone about how disappointing this experience was and how upset you are. Who are you going to talk to? A licensed professional from BetterHelp. If you're struggling to achieve your goals, or things have been especially stressful in the recent weeks, or if something is just interfering with your happiness, BetterHelp can help you. They will assess your needs and they will match you with your own personal licensed professional therapist. You can start communicating with this therapist in under 48 hours, and they have a broad range of expertise available, which is nice because you might not be able to reach that locally. Their service is available worldwide, and you can log into your account anytime and send a message to your counselor. They'll give you timely and thoughtful responses, and you can schedule weekly video sessions or phone sessions. It's very flexible for whatever makes the most sense for you, and then you'll never have to deal with commutes and waiting in awkward waiting rooms and going to an actual office. You can do all of this from the comfort of your own home. And BetterHelp wants your experience to be great. They are committed to facilitating great matches, so they make it easy and free of charge to switch counselors if need be. You don't just have to take it from me. You can go to betterhelp.com/reviews and see what people using BetterHelp are saying about it. I've scrolled this page before. Everyone seems to have a wonderful experience with BetterHelp. So if you want to join the over 1 million people taking charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced professional, you can head on over to betterhelp.com/Potterless. That's betterhelp, HELP.com/Potterless, so that you can start talking with a therapist today. And as a Potterless listener, you will save 10% off your first month. Again, betterhelp, HELP.com/Potterless to start talking with a licensed professional and save 10% on your first month so that you have someone to talk to about this awful meeting of the family situation. I mean, come on, they tried to feed you Snickers today. So Hagrid then convinces Aragog and all of the spiders to go away by promising that he will feed them puppies tomorrow morning, which is great.
Very good.
Then Hagrid takes the squad back to his hut, and he has Harry sit on his lap and bounces him on his leg to cheer him up. And this is the first time, and I'm surprised that they went this far without it happening. This is the first time that I've seen a character break character and just laugh at some of their antics on stage. And that's just really a credit to all of the actors, because they do so many ridiculous things in these musicals that if this is the first thing that makes someone break, that's fantastic.
100%.
So Hagrid then gets a little emotional, and the speech starts good and then becomes terrible. Yeah. But he also says that Harry is like the VR Troopers, which was a reference lost on me. Do you know what the VR Troopers were?
No, I don't.
I guess the joke was that it was incredibly specific, but I had no idea who they were.
There is a space musical that Star Kid did, so it might be from that, but I can't say.
Oh, okay, yeah. I don't know if it was self-referential or just like some weird obscure 90s reference, but nobody cheered when he said it, which made me think it was obscure 90s show. I'm imagining Recode, I think that show is called, or what, something where it was like all digital and stuff. But then Harry says, oh, like the Beetleborgs, which is a reference I did get. That was a ridiculous show that was very strange, and I remember having multiple Beetleborg toys.
Something that Star Kid does is just like do a slew of early 90s references, and like that is jokes. Like that is the kind of the Red Vines things as well. You just say the obscure thing enough times and then it becomes a joke and it's self-referential. So I think that it's very funny you seeing it, like seeing someone do that on stage and then the people in the audience who are much younger are just like, what? I've found very funny.
So then we get into the part where Hagrid actually gives bad advice, says he never graduated, etc. But I do appreciate that as this speech gets more and more depressing, you slowly zoom in on Hagrid to the point where it's like just his face in frame. The camera work, stellar stuff.
So good.
So then they end up leaving, and you cut to Ginny writing in the diary, and another flashback begins, and it's Tom at the Riddle House with his grandparents, and he's writing in his diary. He goes, "Dear journal," which I love that they are keeping that joke going strong. And Tom Riddle's really happy. He's been hanging out with his grandparents, and he's apparently going to meet his father tonight, and he's very hopeful at that prospect.
Oh, man. I have to brace myself for this scene.
Yep.
I want to prelude this scene before you describe it.
Yeah.
It feels like they didn't have anything written here, and they're like, hey, just improv it, and eventually get to the part where they give Tom a Snickers.
Yeah.
It's like, aren't these all like improv jokes? Like you're just kind of like reaching into the deepest recesses of your brain and be like, oh, you're a douchebag. Here, make a poop joke. They're old. It was like, not only was it so cringeworthy because Jake Taylor / Joe Walker, who I love so much, I truly think is an amazing actor, and the fact that I got through this and he had such like clear-eyed, excitable childness in the face of this terrible shit that's happening to him on stage. I was just like, oh my God, just can we be done? Please, can we be done?
Yeah, it was tough to watch. I felt like, as far as an inspiration for the scene, they were like, all the times in Back to the Future when it's the bad reality, whether it's the old 1985 or the alternate 1985, just channel all of that energy into a scene. And that's what we've got.
Yeah, and the fact that we then figured out it was Christmas halfway through, because don't worry, there is still Christmas and Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, exists in the Harry Potter world.
Of course. No, don't worry. Eric, there were definitely Jewish people at Hogwarts. J.K. Rowling promises.
She definitely promised it.
She said so on Twitter.
Even though they're not sketched out and there's no acknowledgement of any other religion other than Christianity and Jesus was probably a wizard, that's fine.
Oh, and don't worry, she's definitely not at fault for making the goblins bad Jewish caricatures, because that's what goblins always looked like. So it's okay, because that's what we've decided goblins are. Like, JK couldn't be like, oh, I got an idea. What if I don't make them Jewish just because everyone else decided this? But no, goblins have always been like that, Eric. So you're actually wrong for thinking that it's bad?
You don't understand. You don't understand. It's because J.R.R. Tolkien did it, and because he definitely doesn't have any biases by being a British person during World War I and World War II, where he thinks all Aryans are good and other people aren't as good. It's fine. That's why it's fine.
Also, I do know you're Jewish, Eric, but commenting on the episode you were in where you made fun of this a while back, you are actually wrong.
No, thanks for telling me. I really
just wanted to let you know.
Oh, good. I thought I was right, but
no, you're actually incorrect.
The Jews aren't systematically portrayed as terrible goblins in a lot of fantasy literature, but I'm glad someone told me that I was wrong, and I'm glad that we can finally address this, and you're really opening my eyes. Jesus Christ is my only Lord and Savior. Thank you.
Do you want to go watch an episode of Wilding Out by Nick Cannon after we finish recording?
I don't want to do that. That is not what I want. I can just go on Twitter, Mike. I don't have to watch Wilding Out. It's just right there on Twitter.
Why is it coming back? Why is 2020 like, hey, not bad enough? What if we added anti-Semitism to the mix?
Mike, I'm going to tell you right now, it was always there.
I know, but I'm not naive to the fact that it wasn't always there, but I just, the extra development of athletes being like, what if I quote tweeted Hitler on Instagram? Like, what is happening?
You're wild. Just the fact that there are Nazis again, really, I couldn't really get my head around that one.
And maybe this is me genuinely being naive that like I thought that Nazis were so bad that like wasn't coming back. What is the appeal?
White supremacy?
I don't get it. I don't know. I guess I don't understand the appeal of like, yes, I hate these people who are very nice.
Mike, you can't reason. And I think that this is something. Yeah, let's take a hard left turn in this fucking episode of Potterless. That's fine. This is a flaw that we have lost since the Obama era. And it's something that we really kind of reveled in. And I think it's why people are getting really irked by Hamilton coming back in 2020. You can't reason with bigotry. You just can't. You can show all of the examples, all of these things that are just like, oh no, these people who are different from you, like the plot of every fucking Disney movie is like the people who are different from you are actually the same and you have a lot in common, then everyone are good people. But really, you can't reason out of that. You are bigoted because you are. And regardless of the experiences that you have, like people will still hate you. I mean, like you would never even want to entertain that if you thought that Jewish people fucking ran all of the media and there was a massive conspiracy that Jews ran the world. But like you could say that about anything if you have these preconceived notions.
Be nice 2020.
If only. Hey, speak up against anti-Semitism. People aren't doing that right now. People should do that. I'd love that. That would be nice.
People should do it for sure. I'm trying to be better about it as well, adding it to the list of things to call out actively because now everything is out in the open. They're like more bad stuff is happening, and when bad stuff happens, we call all of it out.
Yep. Absolutely.
So anyway, Harry Potter. So the grandpa character has a fun scene where he like poops his pants after doing a pull my finger joke, and then he has to get changed like he's a baby. Not a fan of this.
No.
I was very happy when this part ended because it wasn't funny and dragged on too long.
Mm-hmm. This whole scene, can we just run through this one really quickly?
Yeah, I'm very down. Yeah, so Tom Sr. enters. He's like a gamer slacker bro type, which I did think was kind of funny. Like, I do like the play on it that instead of it being a whole consent, evil spells by mom put on Tom Sr., it was just like he's an oblivious idiot that just doesn't understand what's happening. He thinks that she was just on drugs and thought she was a wizard. It wasn't actually magical.
That was really funny.
I think that is fun. When Tom Jr. asks what was mom like, all Tom Sr. says is that she was gross. She didn't even have a nose. So I like that the lack of nose is now a genetic trait.
Yeah.
That has been passed down to Tom. And then Tom is like, oh, she was beautiful on the inside. That's why you loved her. And he goes, no, I didn't even like her. She just got me drunk one night when I was high. I will say that the voice that the guy who does Tom Sr. for, it's so funny in that it is a stereotypical kind of like stoner thing, but like not like the stereotypical one of like, whoa, yeah. But it's, I don't know. I just found his voice to be so funny for this role.
It wasn't like stoner. It was like gamer. It was like, oh, fuck you, mom. Like, no. It was very good.
Right. Yeah. It was like person that lives in the basement asking their mom to make Hot Pockets for them while they game.
Yes.
That kind of guy. Grown up. I also appreciated that he was called Tom's. THOMS was his name, which I don't know that I've ever heard before, but for some reason is very funny to me.
Yeah, no, I agreed with that. I also love that Tom Riddle Jr., Voldemort, was so accepting. Is like, oh, I guess like my dad is fine, but like a good thing he's a wizard. Good thing Dumbledore implied he was a wizard the whole time, and it's fine.
Yeah, it's something that I found funny with the depiction of Voldemort in the first one. And I think that because this is such an absurd parody, that we don't run into the actual issue of people feeling bad for Voldemort and trying to be sympathetic for someone that was, you know, an awful, awful racist, terrible person.
Yeah.
We have this parody version of Voldemort that is this very humanized depiction. And I think that to keep that going in this third one is very funny that, like, in addition to us just kind of thinking that he was this funny guy who was like basically in a relationship with Coral in the first one, now he has this tragic backstory. It makes this particular Voldemort very interesting. It's funny to see someone that in the books was just straight up like, I hate everybody that isn't a pureblood, and that's it. Now it's like, you're right, he's so accepting. He gives them so many chances, even when they are shitty to him for 15 consecutive minutes. He's like, maybe they'll be okay. And then his grandma gives him a Snickers for Christmas, and that's just the last straw.
Right. I think that they do actually a much better job at humanizing Tom Riddle, because although Dumbledore makes jokes about it, like, hey, do you have an Antichrist here? And like, that's truly what he is in the books. But like, I always got the sense, like, why wouldn't they throw, even if he was like 12, why wouldn't they throw Tom Marvolo Riddle in like the fucking dungeon when they realized he was a Dark Lord reincarnated and like probably trying to start a genocide? Like, that's what I would have done regardless of what his age was, if that is something that you can do. Like, you use Avada Kedavra at like a young age, you're still going to jail, bruv. They do a really good job in the musical, like actually making him seem like a child.
It also made me realize that a lot of us learning about Tom Riddle's backstory is from the flashbacks in the second book, or just like people talking about it, and you don't get a lot of like Voldemort perspective. We don't get a ton of insight into like exactly how things went down and the full emotional range that he went through. All of learning that his dad wasn't a wizard and his mom and all that kind of stuff. We just kind of hear about the actions of it. And I don't think that this should happen anymore, but I know there's now the trend that's happening with all the YA stuff is like, oh, I'm the author of a YA series and I haven't made a bunch of money in 10 years. I'm now going to write a book from the perspective of someone else. So now it's like Twilight from Edward, and now there's the new Hunger Games, but it's about President Snow and stuff. I feel like this would be ripe for give me Tom Riddle's actual backstory thing, and then like now he's more sympathetic. But I don't think J.K. Rowling should. I don't want. She shouldn't make books anymore until she like realizes how bad she's being. So I don't think that this is something that should happen. But I feel like it would be interesting to see from his perspective, because I do feel like we just saw everything from actions and less like emotions of going through that.
They really set Voldemort up as Magic Hitler, though. So, like, I don't want that necessarily.
That's the other thing, is I don't really want it.
Yeah, like, President Snow was, like, fermented by the terribleness of the government, because then it really is just a prequel to the Hunger Games, which is something that Suzanne Collins did a really good job of setting up, like, that there was a timeline and things really deteriorated around the revolution, blah, 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 blah. But, like, this would just be like, and I know this is played for laughs in the musical, but this is like, hey, check out Magic Hitler that nobody did anything about.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want that book.
Yeah, I think the President Snow thing, I think the difference there, you're right, is that it's someone that was slowly over the course of time corrupted by power, which is more palatable to learn about someone eventually becoming a terrible person than someone who just like was racist from the start, and then you maybe want to feel bad for the racist, which you shouldn't.
Right.
So I agree that like the President Snow thing I think works better because it's just like guy that got power hungry and it eventually corrupted him is more compelling.
Exactly.
So Tom is very upset about the Snickers thing. He eventually then learns that they are all muggles, and that just is the end of it. He runs off stage, and then we cut to McGonagall announcing that it is the head boy election. People start filing in, and Harry starts slowly realizing after he asks them if they voted for him that nobody voted for him. You learn that Harry and Draco tied for second place with 2 votes each, and the winner with 867 votes is Fozzie Bear.
Again, another just reference that is then become a joke. There you go, Star Kid.
So then Gilderoy comes in. He reveals that he was Draco's 2 votes because him and his twin brother Lilderoy Gockhart voted for Draco, and the 2 votes for Harry were Harry and Draco, which is fantastic. He suggests that they should have a duel to break the tie, and Malfoy, again, it's also funny in a similar vein of Tom Riddle, is like this whole play has made Malfoy just a completely different character, where in the books he's just like a racist garbage person, and now in this one he's actually someone that you feel really bad for because he's so nice and gives people 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th chances.
Yeah.
But he's going to concede because he doesn't want to ruin his friendship with Harry. He asks Goyle for advice about this, and Goyle like does the lick your finger and stick it up to see what way the wind is blowing to make this decision, which I think is just such a great note.
I love Goyle because, again, this is part of the casting thing. Is like, hey, one of our friends is 6'6". What can we do with him? I know. Let's make him Goyle and have him speak in a really low voice.
And let's put him next to Lauren Lopez, who's 5'1" or 5'2" at most.
So funny.
So Malfoy is going to concede, but when he says this to Harry, he says it's because he doesn't want to ruin their friendship. And Harry says that they've never been friends and he hates Malfoy. So then Malfoy decides that he's not going to concede and he's going to go forth with the duel, which good for Malfoy. I'm glad that this happened.
Yeah, 100%.
Gilderoy then says that they're going to start the duel on a count of 4. And I didn't see this coming, but it was very good. Is at first when he said 4, I was like, 4, that's kind of weird. And then he says, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I was like, oh, of course. Like, I was mad that I didn't get it, but it was so good.
Mike, you were wrapped up in all the Harry Potter that you forgot. They're theater fucking nerds.
Yeah. But I do like that he immediately goes into a very intense dramatic piano number, which is very fun.
Gilderoy being able to play the piano was so funny.
Such a smart choice. Such a smart choice. Because if you're going to turn Harry into guy at party that plays guitar and plays Wonderwall, to turn Gilderoy into a guy that plays piano to try to impress everyone is such a smart decision.
So funny.
So then there's a dual song, and it was a good song, but this was what I had mentioned earlier is like when Darren Criss is singing and he has to quickly keep up with someone going back and forth, it doesn't work as well, especially when they're singing at the same time. It's just clearly Darren is not just 100% in the song like he is in the first 2 of Harry Potter musicals. He's very clearly like trying to make sure he's not messing up, and that detracts from it a little bit. But Lauren Lopez brings the heat. So this song I think is still very good.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't rehearse. So like, what are you supposed to do?
Right. So Malfoy then eventually uses Serpensortia, which is a real curse. Apparently in an older episode, they use this in the first or the second one. And I was like, that's not a real thing. And everyone's like, yes, it is. So apologies. But a snake comes out and Harry ends up talking the snake down. And you think he's going to just like calm it down. But then he approaches the snake and then chokes it to death.
Very funny.
Which is very good. So all of the kids are shocked, not about the snake killing, but of course about the fact that he used parcel tongue. Gilderoy, then in Gilderoy fashion, suggests that Harry might be the heir of Slytherin. And then he actually gets pretty intense in his shit-talking of Harry, where it's like a bit uncomfortable when you take a step back and realize this is a teacher talking to a student. And he ends this by saying, you know, after the whole like Harry's old news, we don't care about you anymore kind of stuff. He says, we've all moved on, so why haven't you? Which is cruel, harsh, and then too real when you take the step back and realize that this is a commentary about the Harry Potter franchise and the fandom surrounding it.
Yeah, I think this was really good, especially because it's nearing the end of this act, and the Hagrid scene really sets this whole thing up. Which is also funny because we were talking about this when we both saw Cursed Child, was that J.K. Rowling wrote a play about why it's bad to go back to the original Harry Potter books and mess around, and I'm like, girl, you're doing this right now. That's explicitly what you're doing. So I'm sure that they are going to go back on it, which is my prediction that Gilderoy Lockhart is going to then write the Harry Potter series.
This also struck a particular nerve with me as someone that feels weird about making Harry Potter content when J.K. Rowling sucks so much.
Yeah.
Like, it was just a multi-layer oof moment for me watching it.
What I will say, actually, this is funny. We didn't actually get to talk about this. Wizards of the Coast, the people who make Dungeons and Dragons, are doing the same thing. Like, they really fucking stepped in it throughout June and July. Like, really, they did a really corporate ass statement in regards to the George Floyd protests and supporting black gamers. And like, they've just been doing misstep after misstep of really just like demonstrating that they don't care about diversity and they just only care about money in themselves. And Dungeons and Dragons, in a similar way, the game feels so removed from anything that they make and from Wizards of the Coast. And this is a thing that we've talked about a lot in literature and postmodernism, is like the work is then divorced from the author, but you can still dunk on the author for being a bad person. And like seeing the places in the work that are not good and good. So it's interesting making content using things that are made by people who bother you and do things that you don't subscribe to in your own life and are publicly bad. So like, I totally agree with that like sometimes you just got to keep going if you are being critical and like really ripping apart the parts that you don't like is really important to me. I know that it's not the same because like I'm literally coming up with my own story and you're just kind of, but now I kind of think it's the same because you're doing extracurricular activity. So it is work that is derived from the books themselves. So I think it's fine as long as you're critical. And I know that you definitely are in this show.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. And I know that you've done this as well, and you've always called them out. I think we've both done this as like calling out stuff as it goes and not necessarily like just now when it's especially bad.
Yes.
Like I called out bad JK stuff that people thought I was a reach back then that now like maybe doesn't look as much of a reach. But yeah, I'm glad that the timing of this is that I'm going with the stuff that is offshoots. It makes me feel a little bit better about it because yeah, same thing with you and D&D. It's like you don't make D&D campaigns because you're like, man, the Wizards of the Coast are so cool. It's like
exactly
you like that the structure exists and what the actual formula and the game is and what it has created. Like it has created a platform and a way for you to do creative storytelling with your friends. And it's the same thing with Harry Potter is like, I'm not a fan of Harry Potter because I'm like, J.K. Rowling is so good and the books are so good. Like the books are good. I like the story. I do think they have lots of problems and stuff. But why I keep going back to making this stuff is because I like the community and the people around it and the people that I've met because of it. Like if I didn't like the other stuff, I would have stopped making Potterless after the books and I would have just done something else.
Right.
But there's like so much other stuff to do. And I think for both you and I, like being creators of something where people feel stranger about liking the thing because the creators of it are showing to not be great people. I think there's like extra incentive for us to make content because we want to prove that this community doesn't need the creators and has grown and thrived without them and not necessarily because of them. And we want to continue to do that going forward. So we don't feel bad about the memories we've made, the people we like, etc.
This is actually funny because this ties directly into something we were just saying is like, where did these Nazis come from? Oh, they were here the whole time. Mm-hmm. We are working within a specific genre, which is fantasy. I mean, high fantasy for a lot of stuff in Dungeons and Dragons, but the wizard fantasy and Harry Potter fantasy is kind of its own genre now. YA fantasy, wizard fantasy, whatever it is. And it's like, that always has the same problems because it was created by people who exist in a society that believe all of these things. Like fantasy racism is real, both in the way of wizards when you have like the mudbloods and the way that people are talked about, but the fantasy racism that like orcs and drow, which are like dark elves, and people who live underground and monsters is like, oh, the things that are supposedly uneducated and have darker skin are bad, and that is just something we need to accept. And like that's something that J.R.R. Tolkien like reinforced a lot of that stuff in Lord of the Rings, that a lot of modern ideas of fantasy are derived from. So it's like we are still living within the construction that was created that was shitty, and by looking at it and picking apart, like we're not just picking apart the work, we're picking apart the societal issues that are infected in the work that always have been there, and we need to examine regardless.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So Harry then runs away, and Ginny chases after him. Gilderoy says that this is a forfeit, so Draco wins. Draco says that they want to rule the school with laughter and love, but First, they will seek vengeance on all those who teased him throughout the years, which I think is great. So then we cut to Ginny trying to talk to Harry about the diary, but he's still upset about the whole Nearly Headless Nick party and being with Dean and Seamus and stuff, so he's not really having any of it. And then Harry starts to sing a song about being sad that he's not Harry Potter anymore. And this, I think, was the best of the Darren Criss songs so far, because though it does end up becoming a somewhat duet where it's like him and then Joe Walker as Tom Riddle becoming Voldemort, it's less of a back and forth like the Draco Duel song. So I think because Darren doesn't have to worry about losing his spot and singing at the right time as much, I think he's able to just focus on the singing, and his voice shines through much better.
Yes, I agree. I mean, doing a duet is incredibly difficult, especially when you haven't prepared it at all. So that totally makes sense to me.
What launched this song into being a duet is that Ginny spoke to the diary again, and then it became Tom describing what happened after he murdered his family. But then Ron and Hermione enter and start talking to Harry. Harry says he wants to run away. They obviously want him to stay. And then Harry says, who would care about a loser like me? And Ron says, losers like us, Harry, which is really sweet and heartfelt from Ron.
I think it's adorable. I do think it's funny if this is like in senior year. So if you compare this to the final book of Harry Potter, like, they're not losers anymore. They're fucking saving the world. So it's like, you guys aren't losers. Like, you're the most important people in the wizarding world right now.
Yeah, that's what makes it hard when their timeline is like, it's book 7, but also book 2.
Exactly.
It makes it very hard. Hermione says, Hogwarts is your home, Harry. Harry says, it used to be. Bye. I don't know what exactly sparked this, but I did have in my notes, Darren Criss is very good at singing. Holy crap. So I assume he continued, and it was very, very good. So the diary stuff then continues while Ginny is reading, says that Tom left the school to become Voldemort, and then now, tonight, he is coming back and calling back the Death Eaters. And then you see the Tom Riddle who was on stage become Voldemort by ripping off his shirt and ditching his wig and putting on the sparkle cloak and stuff.
I love this. This was so smart.
He is the full-fledged Voldemort. The crowd eats it up quite a bit. And then he possesses Ginny, sends her off to the chamber. He calls on the basilisk, and it's a pretty decent snake prop. It's one of those, like thing you would see at like a Lunar New Year celebration where it's like multiple people holding it up kind of vibe. He talks to the basilisk for a little bit, and then they all make their way to the chamber. And that's the end of this act and the end of this episode of Potterless.
Yeah. I do think something that they do a really good job of making jokes about, and I think is this, what we said, this humanized version of Tom Riddle, how similar Jerk Harry is with tragic Tom Riddle.
Yeah.
Like, they're really two sides of the same coin. And I think that's funny, and I'm sure that they'll get into that in the second half of the musical.
Yeah, I think that they've weirdly done a better job by making Harry more of a jerk in these plays and making Tom more sympathetic in these plays. They've weirdly done a better job than JK did of making the parallel between Harry and Voldemort more clear.
Yeah.
Because in the books, it was just like, oh yeah, you both, I guess, kind of were the same. Like, I never really bought it that they said that they were so similar. And I feel like it's been more clear in this spoof of Harry Potter.
I think it's because they're both like teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Voldemort that we see is only related to the way that they're in Hogwarts, and like maybe we only see them within the Hogwarts structure, and because Voldemort is like incredibly petty and stupid in the way that Harry is in the musicals, while instead Voldemort is like, I'm the Dark Lord, and Harry Potter is like, I'm a child. And I think that we never really see, like, Tom Riddle and Harry Potter are two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
Not Voldemort and Harry Potter.
Right,
and I don't think that they do a very good job and they are literally set up to be diametrically opposite, or like the same but believing a different thing. One is Magic Hitler and the other is The Boy Who Lived. So I totally agree with you. I don't think that they set that up, but I feel like if they could have made Harry come into his own a little bit sooner. I think this is also why I don't like book 5, is because even in book 5, the adults are telling Harry Potter what to do, and he supposedly is supposed to be like the fucking savior by now.
That's true.
Like,
yeah.
He doesn't get any sort of agency until like the end of 6 and then 7 when they're in the wilderness, because like they literally need to like fucking get some shit done.
He doesn't really get his own agency until Dumbledore dies, and he doesn't have any other choice but to.
Right. And that's also why Dumbledore sucks, because Dumbledore kept Harry Potter in this cage, and then he wasn't prepared when he died. Like, he didn't tell him anything about it. He didn't tell him anything. Like, they should have been partners, and it's either do you protect a child or do you empower a child? And Dumbledore, to detriment, as seen by Tom not telling Tom Riddle that his family aren't wizards, is like, you're keeping Harry Potter in a cage, just even though he's supposed to be the hero.
Communication is important in any relationship, especially in these hashtag trying times, these hashtag unprecedented times. FaceTime your friends.
Mentor-mentee relationship. Have open communication.
Honesty. So, Eric, thank you so much for joining on this episode of Potterless. If people want to find you doing stuff on the internet, podcast-wise, etc., where can they do so?
Wow. Well, you can find me on Join the Party, which is the Dungeons & Dragons show for Multitude. I think it's really good. We're doing a modern superhero campaign, and you should listen to it. I think that these episodes are really kicking butt, and it's pretty good. You can find me on Twitter at L_Silvero. That's EL_SALVERO. That is my name if I was a Lucha Libre wrestler and there was an underscore in the middle. And just listen to all the shows on Multitude, like the new ones, like Meddling Adults. That's a pretty good show, Mike.
I'm very biased, but I think it's very good, and people seem to love it quite a bit. We have not gotten any negative review that I've seen, because what's not to love about children's mystery solving for charity?
Absolutely.
And Barb and Joel were on it.
That's true.
Man, but Eric, thank you so much for joining. Listeners, thanks for listening. And as they say in the wizarding world of Harry Potter, before they chow down on some frozen Snickers bars, wizard on.
I'm a snake. Wizard on. I'm a snake.
I'm a snake. Wizard on.
Wizard on. I'm almost comparable to an alligator, and you can turn me into leather and stuff.
You could turn me into a pair of boots.
You could take the meat and turn me into gumbo, but don't, because you like me, because you can talk to me, because I'm a snake.
Can you actually eat snake? I don't think I've ever heard of someone eating snake.
I think you can do it, definitely, but I assume giant snake and alligator was very similar.
Like, you can, but should you? I've had alligator before. Alligator is very tasty.
I feel like basilisk and alligator are comparable. That was what I was doing in my brain.
Okay.
Basilisk po' boy.
Hey, did you miss that Multitude live show I was talking about in the previous weeks and you're feeling some internet FOMO? Well, guess what? You can still buy a ticket and you can get a downloadable copy of the stream. It's wonderful. You can feel like you're there and you can pretend you're there and no one will know the wiser. And we're still keeping that 25% of ticket sales going to the Black Lives Matter Global Network going, and we've already donated over $1,000. So thank you all for that. That is fantastic. If you want to get this video on demand, you can head on over to multitude.productions/digital live today. Potterless is created by Mick Schubert. It is hosted by Mick Schubert. It is edited by Mick Schubert. It is produced by Mick Schubert, as well as Vicky Garcia, Christine, Aaron Johnson, Klaus Lopu, Marchismo, Samantha Rose, Juan Sanfeliu, Rosemary Dodge, Maria Lisa C. Keen, Romina Rivdanira, Audra, Eleanor Curlin, Nikita Power, Ali Madsen, Sarah Nink, Rachel Guthrie, Zachary Pulido, Orchid Grower, Vivian the Owl, Moster, Alex Consulver, John Cocker, Noel Basole, Brandon Pickens, Claire Spencer, Rory Collier, Veronica Bertova, Lotta Bertova, Noah, Tracy Toya, Colleen, Jennifer Marklew, Justin Montero, Jacob Parrish, Maya Gray, Mark Body, Polly Burridge, Zena Rosnowski, Harlan Haskins, Noelia, Nikki Harris, Kine, Amanda Alford, Kafir Shaltiel, Sarah Shatter, Marta Morrison, Maya, Floor Sake, Siri Scaros, Georgia Davis, Skyla Lily, Edel Ryan, Professor Threat, Ellie Huskov Chova, Michael David Yordi, Kelly Otilio, Kerry Crumpler, Connie Beankowski, Jen Went, Nedry OS, Will Huser, Samantha Lentz, Aurora Fruhoff, Marco Cepeda, Marie Krieger, Ashton Gabrielson, Brittany Gutierrez, Phelan, the Meadows family, Ginny from the Block, Heather Langeal, Brianna Cusimano, Kevin Stewart, Lori McDonald, Chrissy Tiu, Charles Fiven, Peter McGrath, Sophie Duda, Jen and Rose Dab, Callahan and Darius, Leah Reed, Melissa Rob, Bella Barlack, Melanie Demi, Becca Spry, Reese Dignan, Adam Graham, Joseph Torp, Lily's mom, T-Run Money, Madison, Don't Call Me an Infodora, Sabrina Balsiger, Sophia Loves Pigs, Farzan Jarabat, Melanie DeGrave, Matt Barger, Okamahime, Bony Pony, Kelsey Gillespie, Rike Mangor Jensen, Taylor Payne, Rachel Mobbs, Megan Moon, Alicia Chapman, Riley Kiddas, Laurel Happy, Rossann Batamana, Eric Butler, Miranda, Landon Schwausch, Kendra Hertz, Natanya Page, Yogan Shanley, Darcy Alexander Harrison, Sandra Rose, Craig McRoberts, Andren Kaufman, Steve Trelaw, Leo Nachum, Julia Buzak, Demi Lynn, Michelle Spurgeon, Callista Delano, Lavkesh Longer, Jennifer Terzian, Crystal Pollard, Henrique Wolf, Jeremy Elmore, Delkis, Katrina Smith, Jerica Law, Casey Canales, Megan Stempen, Zot, Jack Skitzes, Sophia Lyon, Dane Nemcher, Rochelle Unatmaz, Kirsty, Robin Garcia, Chick Parm, Mermaid and her Daddykins, Aaron Ugas, Not My Daughter You Biatch, Ilaria Vicentin, Lori, Gregory Hughes, Krista Lee, Caw Mother Feathers, Nina Jazalek, Ribbon Monstrosity, Brittany Harper, It's Definitely Ludo Bagman, Ashley Sommers, Grant Sohn, Your Friendly Neighborhood Ravenclaw, Gavin Miller, Aaliyah El Tarshobi, Jack Parr, Steamed Nuggets, and Can't I Potter? Web design by Kelly Schubert, and the music is by Bettina Campamanes. If you want to find us on social media, you can at facebook.com/Potterless, twitter.com/PotterlessPod, instagram.com/PotterlessPodcast, and reddit.com/r/Potterless. Potterless. For any and all information about the show, you can go to potterlesspodcast.com for merch. You can go to potterlesspodcast.com/merch. And for bonus content, you can go to patreon.com/potterless. If you want to tell someone about the show, whether you reach out to someone directly who you think would love the show, or if you just leave a rating and review online, both of those really do help. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time, as they say in the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, Wizard on!